Hello and welcome to our very first video where we'll be performing a malware test against none other than Comodo Business Endpoint Protection. For those of you who are new to our channel, please hit the like button and the bell notifications for future updates. We will be releasing malware test of all the vendors and even some of the unknown vendors on the market on a regular basis, and then you guys can come to the conclusion of which vendor works the best for you, and feel free to leave your comments down below and also the vendors that you would like us to test. Okay, so we'll be testing Comodo Business Endpoint Protection as mentioned. For those of you who have noticed on the widget, it says that Comodo's at risk. We have disabled the antivirus modules. There's two reasons for this. One is to simulate a new attack vector where there's no signature for the new malware, and we need to rely on Comodo to defend the machine with the other modules, and also to demonstrate how well and also to see how well the auto containment works. This is Comodo's silver bullet, if I can put it that way, to combat malware infections, especially new and uprising malware, which is still unknown, running in the wild, basically 0-hour malware. So this is Comodo's way of combating those malware. So we'll be testing the auto containment extensively today. We'll just quickly run through all the settings. So under antivirus, the real-time scan is disabled. We have firewall, which is on safe mode, and block request, and the advanced modules, all of them are enabled. Under host intrusion, it's enabled. Block request with a safe mode. Under containment, it's set to run inside the container, and these are the rules for the auto containment. And then under virus scope, we have the two recognizers enabled on the virus scope, and script analysis, we have enabled all the scripts that comes predefined with Comodo out of the box, as well as the auto runs. This profile is very similar to the level 3 profile that comes out of the box with Comodo, with just a little bit tweaking here and there, especially when it comes to the scripts. We've enabled all the scripts, and we've obviously disabled antivirus, and we've got the widget enabled, but the majority of the settings are very similar to a level 3 out of the box profile. Okay, now that we have shown the settings, under our malware samples, we have 1,138 new malware samples. You'll see that the timestamp shows it's today, not a couple of minutes ago. We downloaded some of the other latest malware. We had some malware that we've had before that we also used for testing on the other vendors, but it ranges from the 27th up until the 21st, so it gives us quite a bit of malware to test with today. We are going to extract the malware to this folder, and then you would notice that Windows Defender is also disabled. As you can see, it's completely disabled, so it won't be able to interfere. We might get a pop-up now and then from Windows Defender that it might have detected some malware, but it can't interfere with the test, as it cannot stop it, as the real-time protection is disabled. Okay, so now we are just waiting for the archive to give us the password pop-up, which will then enter the password, get the files extracted, and then we can start with the testing. Okay, so we're just going to type in the password here. Okay, now we are extracting the malware to this folder. We have all sorts of malware today, malware that are in zip files. We've got, let's have a look, we've got a couple of EXEs, MSIs, we've got VB scripts. There's another bank details. Obviously this is what we use to execute our malware, but the bank details is not part of that, so that's obviously some fileless malware. Got Word documents. I think they are Excel. Yes, they are Excel documents, Java scripts, VB scripts, Java applications, ransomware, you name it, it's in here. So we'll be testing that. Just we're still waiting for the archive to extract. Okay, so this is still going to extract for quite some time, so we'll fast forward the video. As soon as the extraction is finalized, then we will continue with the tests. Okay, so the extraction is finished. What I'll do is, with the archives themselves, I like to extract the malware from the archive as well, to leave it in the folder to see the differences in how Comodo picks up the malware when it's just in a folder, and also how Comodo will behave when malware is executed from a zip. So we will still test the zips, but I would just like to test it the zip and inside the folder itself. Won't take too long to extract because we only have 48 of them. Okay, while we wait for this to extract, let's just make sure that Comodo is up to date. Okay, so it seems like Comodo is up to date. Also, before we start the test, this is the latest version of the business endpoint protection. There is a new version that Comodo will release for us. There was a small hiccup with the deployment, so they've postponed it for now. But as soon as the deployment is ready, they'll release the more latest version. But for now, this is the latest version available for installation. As soon as the new version is available, there are a couple of new features coming. We will be testing the new version as well. Okay, so now we will start 2 scans. We will do 2 context menus, or 2 explorer scans, where we will give each antivirus vendor, we will do 2 scans with all of them, to give them 2 chances to see if they are able to find any new malware. It sometimes happens where on the second, or even sometimes on the 3rd scan, they still tend to pick up malware, but we're only going to do 2 scans for the argument of time. So let's quickly open up Task Manager. We'll need to have a look-see at the resources that Comodo uses while scanning. I know Comodo tends to use a bit of resources while scanning because I think it wants to do the scan, get it over and done, and it's done. Whereas some vendors, they tend to scan slower, but they use less resources. I know Comodo uses a lot of resources to get the scan done. Okay, so the CPU usage is high-ish. It's not alarmingly high, but obviously it will fluctuate over time. And let's have, okay, so now this is not the one that we want this one. Okay, so you would have noticed that there was a virus pop-up. So as Comodo is scanning it, it might quarantine some of the threads automatically from the other modules, but we have set it not to quarantine automatically on the antivirus side, although it's disabled. So this number might decrease a little bit up until the end of the scan, but we'll just wait for the scan to finish, and then we'll look at the results together, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, and we're back. So the scan just took over 15 minutes, which is not too bad. Okay, so we've got 1,238 samples, including the archives. Comodo was able to pick up 745. So I would say that's, yeah, not too good. That's just maybe around about 60%, I would say. Not sure how good my math is at this point, but just quickly calculating, it will just be around about 60%. So let's quickly quarantine that. For those who do know Comodo, signatures are not their strong point. They had a lot of critique and still get a lot of critique. I've seen on YouTube for guys who have also tested Comodo, that the signatures tend to pick up 10, 20, maybe 30% less of the other vendors out there, but I think it's partially due to them relying more on the auto containment instead of signature based detections. Okay, so we're just quarantining the threads. This should be fairly quick-ish. Okay, so we can see there's high disk usage, obviously for the Comodo to quarantine the threads. Okay, so that's done. Okay, so we're gonna do the second scan. The second scan should be quicker because there's a lot less to scan. Let's see if Comodo is capable of picking up something within the second scanner. So as soon as the scan is done, we'll look at this together again, and then from there on we'll start executing the malware to see how well Comodo protects the endpoint. Okie dokie, so we're done. Just to point out, what I've noticed is some of the malware seems to be duplicated, which obviously will make the detection ratio look worse. Not all the malware, but I've picked up that some malware, like here for example, there's a couple of them that are duplicated. Same for the Vero one, these ones as well, that I think it's when I said no to the replacement and just to rename them. So I think that was maybe a mistake on my end. As you can see, documents there by the Exodus. So it seems like there are a couple of duplicates, which I kind of thought was odd to have just run about a 60% detection ratio, because I know Comodo is normally mid 80% on detection ratio, but nonetheless we'll still execute it, because at the end of the day you can pick up 99% of the malware with signatures, and that 1% can slip through and infect the machine. So in my opinion, I'm not too fussy about detections. At the end of the day is when malware is executed, will your antivirus or your endpoint protection protect your machine, regardless of how well it works on signatures. It all comes down to real world protection instead of just scanning for malware. Okay, so we'll be executing our script. Before we do that, we'll just open up the containment so that we can look at the active malware running inside containment. We'll open up Process Explorer so that we can see what's happening with inside the memory, see how many malware we can get in there. I know with this amount of malware that we're going to execute, I think the VM is going to get slow and might cause some problems, but we'll just have to keep an eye on it, because we are going to execute roughly 540 malware. Yes, some of them are duplicates, but it's going to execute the duplicate as well. I'm not going to change the script to filter that out for now. I'm just going to execute all the malware. So as you can see, currently there's nothing malicious running inside the memory for now. These ones are just false positives. The ITSM agent is just part of Comodo. It's this little agent running here. Okay, so we're going to start executing the malware, and then we'll see how well Comodo performs. So the testing, we're going to start now. Okay, so right off the bat, as you can see, I'm just going to close that one. It accidentally opened up duplicate. Okay, so we're just going to wait for the malware to execute. Okay, so you guys will obviously start noticing the green borders around all the pop-ups. That's to indicate that they're running in containment, that Comodo has successfully contained them. Okay, so we already have one of them that's successfully contained. These ones as well. Some of the malware will just die out in the containment. Some of the malware just can't run in a virtual environment. in essence like this, like a sandbox type of scenario. Some would just die, they're not designed for it. Also, the containment rules are a bit aggressive, so when something is inside containment, it's extremely isolated, and that also sometimes interferes with malware. They execute for a couple of seconds and then they just also die. So not all the malware will show in here as well, also within containment, as the malware will just eventually or the process will just end. Okay, so we're gonna run this execution. We're gonna wait for this to finish. This is gonna take some time because we're executing over 514 malware samples, including the zips that needs to open. We've got Word documents, Excel, so I'm gonna get the feeling that this endpoint is gonna, or this VM is gonna get really slow, but we'll see how far we get, and then at the end of the results we'll have a look, see how well Comodo protected. Did something escape auto containment? Is there an active breach on this endpoint? If there's infection, where and how bad it is, and then we'll come to the conclusion, and then we'll do our third-party opinion scanners. But for now, let's just wait for the scan to finish. As soon as it's done, I'll be right back with you guys. Okay, and we're back. The malware execution is finished. That took quite some time. There's a bunch of malware that we had to execute it. The majority of them just gave error messages. You would have seen during the fast forward play that I closed some of them. Also wanted to close as many as possible that failed, so that there's enough resources still for the VM to operate. Okay, so Comodo is asking to restart. Normally when it gives you a pop-up like this, then you know there's something serious on the machine. Comodo does not always ask to restart to remove malware. We have, seems like a fake Nitro PDF reader, I think, that wants to install, but let's install it. Let's see what happens. I think that might be the duplicate. Okay, so it is installing. It might be a legitimate one that's been altered. As you can see, there is still a bunch of malware running in memory. Couple of nasty stuff running here. If you've got no antivirus, then I hope you've got backups, because I think this machine is totally screwed. Yeah, so there's still a lot of active malware, but this is running virtually in the virtual memory. But the machine is still responsive. I must say the machine is not actually that slow, considering how much things are. 150 applications are running in containment. The rest of them just died down, or I just closed them eventually. But 150 applications running. You'll obviously notice that there's a error message when something is running in containment. It does not have access to the internet. So for example, this wants to download Nitro, but it will fail as there's no internet access within containment. So we're just going to close that, cancel that, finish, and it's done. Okay, so resources, the disk obviously is a bit high because Comodo is running everything in containment. So let's have a look, see. You guys will see there's a bunch of things here running in containment. You would also notice that there's a lot of trusted applications running in containment. This is one of the reasons why we like Comodo, is even if something is trying to call up a legitimate or signed service or application or program, whatever a unknown is trying to do, all of it related to that would go into containment, even if it's trusted. So even if it's trusted, Comodo won't allow it to run outside the containment. It will virtualize that as well. So you'll see there's a bunch of trusted files here as well. So this is malware trying to use something that's trusted to obviously fulfill its mission, but even that will get contained. So it doesn't matter if it's trusted or not. So this one has already been rated as malicious. Okay, so I think we should have a fairly good idea if this machine is infected or not. As you can see, there's a bunch of malware running inside in Process Explorer. So what we'll do is, before we clear it out, we'll have a look at the v2 root folder. Oh yes, this is something I left open just to demonstrate to you guys how Comodo is protecting as well. You would notice that there's also a green border around this Explorer. So even this Explorer, Comodo virtualized it because there was an image malware that mapped as a drive. So even if we do navigate to any of the other subsections here, it will still do so within this containment. So we have this fake PDF payment notification. So Comodo even contained that drive as it was mapped by Explorer, but even it contained or made a virtual copy of that. So that's how well Comodo protects. We still have a couple of pop-ups here. So Comodo is obviously still blocking and going nuts. But yeah, so I just wanted to show you guys this green border around the Explorer. So even if you get a malware that is an ISO or something that maps as a drive, it will get contained. And then whatever's within the drive will also get contained if you execute that PDF. So now to have a look at the VT root folder. So for those who know Comodo, Comodo creates a VT root folder for where all of this that's now currently in containment. So this is where it is. All the files in here are files that were touched or tampered with malware. So it's a copy of that within this VT root folder. So that's why you won't have everything inside VT root. Only the files and folders and applications that any of these malware that were running wanted to mess with any of that, only that will be showing in the VT root folder. So we've got this funny folder here. Let's have a look, see at the users folder, user account. Okay, just to show you guys the differences between the VT root folder and the actual folder, just to show how different it is. Okay, so we're going to go to C drive. We're going to still use the user profile as an example. So there's the VT root folder again. So we're going to go to users, the user itself. Apologies for that background noise. Okay, so here we've got desktop documents downloads. As you can see, this looks like it might have been ransomware, because you can see those test files that we wanted to see if Comodo is able to pick up those malware. Here it seems like this is ransomware. So if we go to desktop, as you can see, .rig, so this is definitely ransomware. So compared to the VT root folder and the actual folder on the desktop itself, you'll see Process Explorer is still there. We can open it, bound eraser. So this was a ransomware attack, which was obviously obfuscated, running in containment. This is obviously the malware itself. I think this was also tampered with. And let's have a look, see at the documents. Yeah, so as you can see, there's also regit.com, so it might have been another ransomware that encrypted this one as well. So I think there was two ransomwares involved. They are these ones as well. Funny enough, there's still a copy of it, but seems like it's partially there. Might have been terminated within the containment and failed eventually. This funny folder here, with this little funny thingy, you've obviously noticed that FUT whatever is not within this folder. So documents, you can see our documents are untouched. These are the normal documents. Let's just go back to documents, sorry. So as you can see, .com, there's nothing here with that extension. Let's have a look, see at pictures. Let's have a look at our pictures. So these are the original pictures within the pictures folder. As you can see, they're untouched. There's no issues here. Let's just open that in Paint quickly just to see if it does open. Paint 3D, there we go. Okay, so as you can see, a whole bunch of COOM and whatever RIGD ransomware, so something that created that extension, pictures, and we've got a bunch of files there. So you guys will notice that obviously the machine itself is untouched. There's no funny things here. All of the infection is in the VT root folder. Okay, so let's just see if we can open up that picture. Okay, so that closed. I can see this machine is extremely busy. Let's try it again. But as you can see from the thumbnails, there's nothing wrong here. Let's just open it up. Let's just say edit. Should open it up in normal Paint. Okay, so we can open up in Paint. As you can see, there's nothing wrong with the picture itself. So this is maybe a good slogan for Comodo, to render attacks useless. So let's see if it did. So far it looks like it did render all the attacks useless. Okay, we are going to close the container to free up all of this. I think we've given all the malware more than enough time to infect the machine. Now we're going to start with our, we're just going to run a quick scan with Comodo. I'm just going to go out of here because it's going to give me an error message. Containment, we're going to reset the container. You can see it obviously went from 150, now it's on 174, so it's obviously more and more as the malware is trying to execute and do its thing, keeps increasing in containment. So now we're resetting the container. So slowly but surely that number will decrease, and then eventually we should not be able to open the VT root folder. As you can see, it's taking some time to reset the container because there's quite a bit inside the container, and also it deletes all the data. So if there was a couple of gigs worth of data, it needs to delete that as well. And obviously this green border explorer thingy needs to disappear as well. Okay, so it's taking really long to reset the container. Normally it doesn't take this long, but I think there's a bunch of stuff in here. Let's see if this disappears. Let's look at Process Explorer. Process is 293. Okay, so yeah, this is taking really long to to clean out the container. Like I said, it normally doesn't take this long. But let's just give it some time. Okay, so we're going to speed this part up. When it's done, then we'll do a quick scan and then run the third-party opinion scanners. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a reset on the container again. Let's see if that helps. Okay, so we can still see that we still have a lot of active malware within the memory. I think Comodo is battling to get this container reset. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for this container to reset again, wait for the pop-up. I'm going to restart the machine, re-log in again, reset the container again, and then we'll do the test from there on, because I can see the numbers are decreasing, but it's just too slow for testing purposes. So I'm just going to wait for this, and then I'm going to restart the machine. Okay, and we're back. Okay, so the container did do a reset again, but obviously the number has decreased a little bit. So I'm just gonna close all of this off. I'm gonna do a restart on this machine. While it's restarting, I'm just gonna pause the video for that brief period for the restart to take place, and then I'm gonna run the reset the container again so that we can delete that VT root folder and then run the third-party opinion scans. Okay guys, so we'll be back just now. Okay, and we're back. So the VM took extremely long time to restart and start up again. I can see Comodo is doing something in the task. Let's quickly have a look-see. The VM still feels a bit slow, but obviously no sign of malware infection. Okay, let's see if that VT root folder is still there. I think it is. Yes, it is. Okay, so I think let's quickly do a reset on the containment. As you can see, nothing's running in containment, but the files were left behind. So if we're going to do a scan now, there's a good chance that third-party scanners are going to pick something up in this folder as malware, so we don't want to create any false positives. Okay, so it's doing an update. Okay, completed. So there was a signature update. So it's busy installing the signatures. It's most probably going to do an unrecognized file scan now. After every update, it does rescan the unrecognized files to see if they clean or not, and then give them the local rating. Okay, you can see there's a lot of PowerShell scripts, files, etc. In here that is obviously unknown, so it's a bunch of that new malware. Let's just restart or reset the container. Okay, so as you can see, it's resetting the container much faster. Okay, so it's resetting the container a lot faster. It's almost done. Okay, so the location is unavailable as it was reset. Okay, you can see no container, no nothing, just for the fun of it. Okay, it's reset. Is it still? Yeah, it's still finalizing the update. So some website updates. Okay, so it's done with the update. So let's just quickly do a quick scan, and let's see what it's going to find out. While we're doing that, let's do a quick rating scan. So that gives ratings for files within memory, etc. So it's almost like a quick rating scan as well. And let's close that. Okay, so I think while that is scanning, let's get MCsoft open in the meantime. I find MCsoft to load quite a bit of time, and also to check for updates is quite slow, so I'm going to start that process in the meantime. So we'll use MCsoft most probably last as the third-party opinion scanner. Okay, so I'm just going to fast forward this until we're at the end. Okay, so MCsoft opened up. Just waiting for these scans. This is almost done. Okay, so there's only one unrecognized file that Comodo does not know about in the quick scan. Seems like there's a new Skype. Let's see the location of that. So it seems like it's a new Windows Microsoft Store update. Okay, so that's fine. We're not going to worry about that. Quick scan. Okay, let's have a look at the quarantined files while we wait for this to finish. Okay, so there are a bunch of files. The cloud scanner file lookup services. This is normally the AI that determine that it's malware. So normally these cloud scanners are the ones that will eventually get signatures for them, but this is just like a cloud analysis, hence why the cloud scanner file lookup service. So we got a bunch of them. So that's obviously Valkyrie, which is the AI, determined that it's malware. So we've got a bunch of malware here. Unfortunately, Comodo does not show the total quantity within the quarantine. I would like to see that in future versions. It's just a nice way just to see how many malware is in the quarantine, but we can't see the total. But you can see a lot of backdoor stuff, not a couple of cloud scanner stuff again. So there's a bunch of malware in here. I'm gonna clean the quarantine because I've seen sometimes third-party opinion scanners tend to pick up malware that's within the quarantine folder of other vendors. So I'm just gonna delete whatever is in the quarantine so that we make sure that third-party opinion scanners don't pick it up when they scan. Okay, so it's clean on that end. Okay, so the quick scan was clean. Okay, so we're going to start with Hitman Pro, and the scan is going to take some time, so we'll just start the scan. Let it run, and then when it's done, we'll come back and we'll look at the results. We'll see if it only picked up malware within this folder, or did it pick up malware somewhere else outside containment. And also, if it did, we'll have to look at it if it is an active breach, or is it just malware fragments that were left behind, etc. But we'll have a look at it as soon as Hitman Pro is finished. So I'll see you guys later. Okay guys, and we are back. So the scan took some time to scan, but that's fine. Okay, so we'll go through it together. As you can see, the first malware detected was in the samples extracted. So I'm going to scroll down. The key thing to look for is when the location at the bottom changes, to see if anything else was detected outside the malware extracted folder. So obviously we've got these two little tracking cookies, but that always happens with Hitman Pro. I didn't use CC Cleaner or CCleaner to clear that up before the scan. Okay, so we've got extracted. So we're just gonna oh sorry, I thought I was at the top. I'm actually at the bottom. So I'm just gonna scroll up so that you guys can see slowly that so far all the malware detected is in the new extracted folder. As you can see, the location is not changing as of yet. still the same samples, new extracted. So far so good. Okay, so yeah, so that's still new. It's just short names of the malware. Samples new, extracted, extracted, extracted. Okay, so I cannot see that any malware resides outside this folder, so Hitman Pro was not able to pick up anything else. Okay, so now we're gonna do a MCSoft malware scan. It's updated 11 minutes ago, so it's still late signature. Okay, so this scan is gonna run. This does scan a bit quicker than Hitman Pro. As soon as the scan is finished, we'll look at the results, and then we'll do a Norton Power Eraser, and then after that we'll determine if we need to run it with a fourth scanner. I know a lot of people might want to see Malwarebytes. We'll see if we can run Malwarebytes. Malwarebytes scans are slow. This video is already running quite a bit of time already, so I want to keep it as short as possible. We'll see what MCSoft has to say, and then Norton Power Eraser, and then from there I'll decide if I'm going to run Malwarebytes. But I think 3 opinion scanners are enough to get an idea if a machine is infected or not. Okay, so let's let MCSoft do its thing. When it's done, we can look at the results together. Okay, and we're back. MCSoft has finished. Picked up 356 malware. Okay, so I'm just gonna scroll down to us again. The location, once the location changes, it managed to find malware somewhere else. So far so good. Okay, so it seems like the machine is clean. There's only malware detected in the desktop. Okay, so no malware anywhere else. I'm gonna do a Norton scan. And we're back. Okay, so the full scan says it's clean, but we all know on the desktop there's malware, so I'm not sure why NPE does this, hence why I wanted to do the folder scan, because I know Norton does this, but nonetheless it says it's clean. Okay guys, so I think I'm going to conclude this test. This video is already running for quite some time already. I can say that from what I can see that this is a win for Comodo. There is no malware traces found by Hitman Pro, nor by MCSoft, or by Norton Power Eraser. So the machines are clean. We looked at it. We can double check in the downloads. This Malwarebyte file is accessible, as we saw previously with the VT roots. These files are untouched. We can all see them, we can all edit them. They're not affected by ransomware, where in the VT root we saw that the files even had multiple extensions. Okay guys, so let me know what you guys thought about the video. Again, please like and share this video. Please leave your comments down below and I'll get to them as soon as possible. If you've guys got any recommendations or any other products that you guys would like us to test, we'll gladly do that. But we have a couple of other videos coming up. We're just finalizing the test, so after this video is uploaded, there should be 2 or 3 other videos following suit from other vendors. I'm not saying the names now, you guys can see when they are uploaded. So once again, thank you for watching, thank you for your patience in our very first video. This is one of our, or most probably going to be our longest video. because Comodo does take a bit longer to test than the other vendors. But once again, thank you so much for joining us. Leave your comments down below and have an awesome day. Thank you so much.